Hey, I'm assuming that you may be thinking about building some basic, lumber shelves in your basement or your garage. That's what I needed to do. You'll see some good examples online. I don't think there's that much that's special about mine, except for the fact that I think I came up with a solution that uses less lumber, has a lot of strength, and has a lot of room. It leaves a lot of actual storage room. So let me just, I'll continuously move around so you can kind of look at what's going on here, but I'll try to explain it. Um, because I have a wooden wall, I was able to use screws, 2-inch and some 3-inch screws, to put a 2x2 here all the way down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, about 2 feet apart. Down to the floor was probably 18 inches. Up above, plenty of room for whatever, but not enough room for another row of shelves. The vertical strength comes from the 2x4s that are sitting in front. Vertical strength. The horizontal strength comes from that 2x2 in the back, which it's about as strong as the wall is now. Even though a 2x2 is not very strong lumber, it's strong now because it's so well anchored into that wall. The next question is, how do you get strong shelves? How do you get shelves that don't sag as you load them up with a lot of weight? Well, you can get thick plywood, but it can still warp. I didn't want to spend a lot of money on thick plywood. I think this is 9/16. It's not 3/4 inch anyway. And so I knew I needed to brace it somehow. If I was going to use a slightly thinner plywood, I needed to brace it somehow. And a lot of the solutions I'm seeing on the internet have a 2x4 as the structural strength along the face of the shelf. Well, that's not a bad idea. 4 inches of wood is a lot of strength. The problem is you're trying to create storage space. And if I put a lot of height here, I'm reducing the amount of height I have down here. See what I'm saying? If this was 4 inches, that's 2 inches shorter of a box that I can push in here. So I didn't want to do that. I wanted to have as little thickness as I could. Well, the problem is a 2x2 is not that strong. So my solution for that was to keep it short. This is about a 45-inch piece of 2x2. I picked them out to be very, very straight, coming from the hardware store. And I just made the mirror image of what was on the wall. I made it go down here, except it stops right here at this cross brace. Now the cross brace is a 2x4, and again, very common on the internet to see a 2x4 turned with its 4 inches in the vertical in order to give you a lot of vertical strength. That's what you want to keep a shelf from sagging. But what I did was I created shelves that were 8 feet. This is just an 8-foot piece of plywood. I had the store rip it down the center so that instead of being 4x8, it's now a 2-foot by 8-foot piece of plywood. And I kept that all together. So that shelf has a lot of integrity. I braced it in the middle here. Sorry for the shaky cam. I braced it in the middle, so it's really only having to support a 4-foot span, and in order to give that span the ability to resist sagging in the middle, I used a 2x2. I guess, is a strut the right word? It's just a lightweight but sturdy reinforcement, which gets its strength from having screws about every 10 inches apart, so that now the plywood and its 2x2 supports around the edges make it almost one solid piece. It's strong. I mean, it's not going to go anywhere. And we've already loaded this one up with boxes full of books. And after we did one set of boxes, we had them like 3 across, 1 box, 2 box, 3 box. with a little room left over, it wasn't making the shelves sag at all. So I twisted some around. I'm not going to bother to show you because you don't care, but we now have 5 book boxes on each shelf, and they're just solid as a rock. So I think probably by ignorance and guessing, I've come up with a design that's pretty strong, pretty lightweight, and most importantly of all, gives me the most of what I really built the shelves for, which is lots of clearance. Lots and lots of clearance here. The screws, they're 3-inch decking screws here. I used 2-inch screws for most of this. I staggered 3-inch screws and 2-inch screws back along in this 2x2 on the back wall, because again, as long as that wall is strong, I think those 2x2s are going to stay there for as long as the wall is there. So I guess that's it. I built this one. It took me about 2 days because I was doing a lot of head scratching and trying to figure out what I was doing, how to build it, because I didn't have any plans at all. But I knew I didn't quite like everything I saw on the internet, and yeah, I like this solution. And by the way, I know it sounds dumbass to say I like my own solution, but I mean, of course you'd like your own solution, but this here is just to, it's just for looks. Didn't have to do that. I set these back by 1 inch, just to be more workmanlike, I guess is the right word for it. It's not necessary, but it does make them look more like a shelf, makes them look a little less clunky. But they're absolutely as strong as they can be. So anyway, I encourage you to do what I did, look at the internet, figure out what works and what doesn't work for your situation. If this had been a stone wall, I couldn't have done any of this, or a concrete block wall. But yeah, I had a wooden wall to work with, and that really became the building block for the whole solution. So good luck with your project.